Okay, let's talk about sweeteners in the context of a ketogenic diet. This is something that I've avoided talking about because it's just something that hasn't really interested me that much in the past. Um, we don't really use a lot of sweeteners. I'm on a ketogenic diet now. Been on a ketogenic diet for the better part of 3 years now, maybe a little over 3 years. Um, I will occasionally engage in seasonal carbohydrate intake, and I do enjoy sweet tastes. I've always had a sweet tooth, but my keto tooth has replaced my sweet tooth. Um, where I once would, where I used to always crave sweets, sugary foods, bready foods, now I crave my keto foods. I love me some savory, fatty, salty foods. I mean, that's to me, and the avocado is like, I don't know, an avocado with a bunch of salt, pepper, cayenne pepper on it. I don't know, I crave that now. It's crazy. Might sound crazy to you people who are just discovering a ketogenic diet and trying to learn about this, but it's absolutely true. Your sugar cravings go away when you do keto. They are torched, and you become highly sensitive to those sweets. So after a period of adaptation where you're burning fat, where you're not eating a lot of sugary foods, you'll notice that sweets taste a lot sweeter, and you require very, very little sweetness to quench that little tiny part of the palate that might prefer sweet foods. So, first, let me say that you don't need sweet. You don't need carbohydrates to survive. And you can absolutely live without that sweet taste. So, if you're just starting out on a ketogenic diet, for the ketogenic diet newbies out there, if you're just looking into this diet and you're trying to get adapted to the diet, my best advice to you would be to avoid sweeteners, especially in the beginning. And after about a month or so, when you're well adapted to the diet, absolutely fine to mess around with some sweeteners. And I'll talk about the types of sweeteners to use, what I would say would be the best ones to use and which ones to avoid. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But when you're adapting to the ketogenic diet, avoid the sweets. They're going to spark cravings if you engage in them. They will mess with you, and they will make it harder to adapt, harder to let go of those, like I don't know what you want to call them, those little plugs you got in you from the sweets, those little the little strongholds left over from that kind of addictive tendency towards the sweet taste, because it's delicious, it can be addictive, and in the past a lot of us have used sweets, have used food, have used sugary sweet foods to numb us out. We don't overeat because we enjoy the food so much. We might get some sensory pleasure from it, some temporary taste pleasure, but come on, after a big, like, gorging meal on junk food, none of us feel good. None of us feel alive. It drains you. It numbs you out. And I used to do it every single day after school. I mean, growing up, I would come home from school. Hold on. Duke, be quiet. I would come home from school every day, and I would gorge on junk. I would have a bagel with cream cheese, maybe a couple of Danishes from Costco, and just whatever sweet crap was around that my parents were kind enough to buy us. Me and my brother and sister, we were probably, I can imagine how difficult it was going to the store with us. All three of us, super hard-headed, stubborn kids, just demanding these sweet, crappy, sugary foods from our parents. Sorry, Mom and Dad. It's not your fault, you guys. Yeah. So, you can live without the sweets. You can transcend it. And a ketogenic diet is one of the most powerful tools for transcending that addiction to the sweet foods. You will feel good. Your inflammation will be lower. Your brain will be favoring the production of GABA. You'll also have the neuroprotective effects of the ketones, which will make your brain more stable and your consciousness just feel lighter and better. So, yeah, keto is a powerful tool for breaking that cycle. Now, sweeteners. If you've already gotten adapted to a ketogenic diet, if you're not struggling in the beginning with those sweet cravings when And in the beginning, let me reiterate, in the beginning, when you're struggling with those cravings, don't go for the artificial sweeteners. You don't want to entrench that habit. You're building a foundation. You're building this foundation of nutrition, of behavior, and of your environment. You're building this new foundation that you're going to use as a major part of your lifestyle. It's got to be a lifestyle change. You can't just cut out junk food for a few weeks, lose a little bit of weight, and then go right back to eating the junk food. You're going to bounce back. Your body reflects the behaviors and the environment. So you got to change your environment. You got to get rid of those sweeteners from the cupboard. You got to throw the sugar out. You got to throw it out. You got to clean out your pantry. All the foods that are not going to be useful to you on your diet, whatever diet that is. I don't even like the word diet. In your new lifestyle changes, in your new lifestyle, you got to throw it out. I mean, it's just like if you're quitting smoking, you don't keep a pack of cigarettes in front of you all the time. You get rid of it. So throw it out. All right. If you're already well adapted to the diet, if you're feeling good, having the occasional meal with some of these sweeteners can be fine. Now let's talk about the types of sweeteners. I'll break it down into 3 different types. Just for simplicity's sake, we'll do artificial sweeteners, natural sweeteners, and sugar alcohols. Some of which are natural sweeteners also. But those 3 categories, artificial sweeteners, natural sweeteners, and sugar alcohols, are the ones I'm going to talk about. So just for simplicity's sake, for the people who don't want to watch anymore, you've already watched 6 minutes, get to the point, man. First of all, natural sweeteners, one of the best ones is going to be stevia. As far as maintaining ketosis, stevia will not raise your blood sugar. Some people have noticed that the stevia glycosides, the extract of the stevia that's like made into a sugary, powdery form to replicate sugar, some people have found that can raise their blood sugar. But I'm not sure if there's been enough research done on that. Don't quote me on that one. But for the most part, stevia is a keto-safe sweetener. Yeah, it doesn't taste good. Yeah, it's not ideal. But if you learn how to use it right, if you learn how to use it in the right amounts and in context, it can be fine. A few of the recipes in the Ketogenic Edge cookbook, which just came out 2 weeks ago, I think, or maybe 3 weeks ago, which people have been giving us awesome feedback on. Our entire dessert section, there are no artificial sweeteners and very little use of sweeteners in there. So it's all about what you surround the taste with. It's all about what you surround the taste with for your palate. So there's ways to use things like cinnamon to draw out sweet flavors, nutmeg, pumpkin pie spice, even salt. When you surround salt, when you add a little bit of salt to something that's a little bit sweet, it will bring that sweet taste to the front of the palate. It will draw the sweet taste forth. So there's ways to create food, to create delicious food that will satisfy that little tiny part of the palate that enjoys sweet taste that we become obsessed with for some reason and forget about all the rest of the rich, amazing flavors that we can focus on and enjoy. You can absolutely make high-fat, semi-sweet meals without these artificial sweeteners. So a lot of the recipes in the Ketogenic Edge cookbook, and I'll put a link to that down below, which just came out 3 weeks ago, and put a review. If you bought the book and you enjoy it, make sure to throw up a review on our website. We really have been loving the feedback we've been getting, and we really appreciate the people who've taken the time to write us a review. So thank you. But yeah, you don't need a lot of artificial sweeteners. So stevia, as far as natural sweeteners go, that's probably the best one. Sugar alcohols. If you're looking for sugar alcohols, the best one to use, I would recommend erythritol. Now, erythritol is a naturally occurring compound that's found in fruits and vegetables, and it can be extracted from corn. One of the downsides of erythritol, further promoting the degradation of the soil by companies like Monsanto, the monocropping of the soil, the degradation of the soil microbiome using glyphosate. Unfortunately, a lot of erythritol is probably coming from corn. But as far as ketosis, it is a 0-calorie sweetener and is believed to have 0 glycemic index. So there's a product called Lakanto, Lakanto. I don't sell that on my website. Maybe it should. I actually enjoy this product sometimes. Lakanto is erythritol mixed with monk fruit extract. So that's probably the best one to use if you're looking for just a straight sugar substitute. Erythritol is good. You don't want to be eating this stuff every day. You don't want to be making a habit out of it. And you don't want to be so focused on candy, right? Like, let's grow up. We're not kids anymore. We don't need to eat candy with every meal. But erythritol and that Lakanto stuff, which is a monk fruit mixed with erythritol, that's probably the best way to go. Now, artificial sweeteners such as aspartame, sucralose, aspartame, saccharin. There's a whole bunch of these artificial sweeteners. I'm just going to go ahead and say straight up, avoid them. Like, why you need that crap? There is not enough research to convince me that they're safe. Everybody will rave about, oh, well, you hippies, you don't like what's it called? You don't like aspartame, but there's been so many studies done on aspartame. There's been so much research. I'm not going to get too deep into this issue, but I think that there's a case to be made that aspartame could potentially be quite harmful and dangerous for human consumption. So I avoid it. These things taste like crap anyways. You're not missing out on anything. Drop the artificial sweeteners. Sucralose tastes horrible. Splenda, that stuff tastes awful. I think aspartame is equal. Equal, I believe, is aspartame. Tastes like crap. I mean, this is the sugar that they put in gums. Like, I used to chew these gums all the time. But it's just not, I don't know. I don't like it. Some people say it can cause inflammation. A lot of people get really bad headaches and even migraines from aspartame. So, I don't know. Just avoid the artificial sweeteners. I'm going to leave it at that. As far as ketosis, aspartame supposedly has zero glycemic index, I think. Does it have zero glycemic index? All right, correct me below. But most of these artificial sweeteners, sucralose, aspartame, are lower in the glycemic index, but there's a lot of anecdotal reports of people having issues with them, and I just think it's better to avoid it. Better safe than sorry. There's better options out there. Use erythritol and that monk fruits extract. Use stevia, or quit focusing so much on the sweet taste. Expand your palate a little bit. Learn to mess with the savory. Learn to cook with spices. There's an entire section on spices, the use of spices, how to draw out different flavors and textures using those spices. There's an entire section on this in our cookbook, the Ketogenic Edge cookbook. So yeah, check that out if you want to kind of transcend some of these old things. And the cookbook is not an advanced, like, made in a professional kitchen cookbook. These are all recipes made in our humble little kitchen here in the Andes of Ecuador. These are all, most of these, not all of them, Ariana doesn't have the same taste as us, but most of these are even kid approved. Our 4-year-old daughter has been testing them and she likes them. And yeah, so check that out. But to reiterate, sweeteners in general, you don't need them. If you can use them in moderation, if you can use them and not be so attached to it and get all gullum, my precious, with the sweet tastes, after you've adapted to a ketogenic diet, it's absolutely fine to include some of these every once in a while. I would suggest avoiding the artificial sweeteners. Learn how to use stevia. Learn how to use erythritol and Lakanto, Lakanto. And another really good sweetener, some people use inulin. It's an undigestible fiber. Or some people use FOS, fructooligosaccharides, that come from yacon. So yacon powder, YACON, and yacon syrup are from a tuber that grows in South America, grows all over the mountains here. It is kind of like a jicama with a little bit more of a sweetness, but it's got a high content, it's got a high level of fructooligosaccharides. Fructooligosaccharides are sugars that are not metabolized by us, but that feed beneficial bacteria. They are prebiotic fiber. So, there's another option that I completely forgot about, and there's a bonus for you at the end, for those of you who made it through the 15 minutes. So, you can find more stuff at www.primaledgehealth.com. Check out the free Maca ebook I'll put a link to that down below also. It's called Maca, the Andean Adaptogen. It's a free ebook. It's got actually a few dessert recipes. One of my favorite recipes in there is the maca chocolate fudge brownie, or maybe just maca fudge brownie it's called, and that is delicious. I don't even think there's stevia in that one, but we were still able to create a dish where you can draw out that sweet flavor and you get the delicious nuttiness of the maca and the energy boosting, the vitality effects of the maca mixed with the chocolate, the cacao. That recipe is awesome, and it doesn't use any sweeteners. So there's a really good recipe to kind of mess around with and realize that you don't need a lot of these artificial sweeteners to make really good foods that can satisfy that little tiny tinge of a sweet tooth that's left when you're doing a ketogenic diet. But I assure you that for the most part, that sweet tooth gets torched when you do keto. It goes away. And that's one of the most amazing things about a ketogenic diet. So you can find more at www.primaledgehealth.com. I'll put this up as a podcast as well because I think it's a very important subject. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.